Kind of gross, isn't it? Hello and welcome to the shop. I'm Jared and this is the Questionable Garage, and this is an engine, a very dirty one, and some of you longtime watchers might have an idea what project might be getting a little bit of progress.
Keep holding it.
This is the 1.9 liter Volkswagen ALH diesel destined to go into Honda Rousey, our 1985 Honda Accord stretch limousine. Myself and a few friends took on the Dust Ball Daredevils, where we had $1,000 to buy, prep, and race a rally car. Unfortunately, we didn't hit the finish line. The trusty Honda engine, while adequate, I guess, for around town, couldn't quite handle the mountains and other rally expenditures like speed. We cracked a cylinder head, and no matter how much we tried to band-aid the poor thing together, it just couldn't go. So the future power plant for Honda Rousey here, is a 2002 Jetta TDI diesel, the ALH engine code, with a whole lot of really cool goodies from Darkside Developments. And I kind of was like, well, I really need to get moving on this project a little bit. Want to, you know, take advantage of some of the really fancy parts we bought for it. But before we even get to the point that we're gonna worry about putting anything new, it's filthy, it's dirty, we've got a little bit more things to take off of it. So that's what we're gonna get started on today. Our goal is to go ahead, get this thing stripped the rest of the way down, get it as clean as possible, put some fresh paint on it, and then we can start putting on some of those Darkside performance parts we ordered quite a while for this thing. We got big injectors, big turbos, custom manifolds, a total revamp of the cooling system. There's a lot of really cool and exciting stuff that is gonna allow us to make way too much horsepower for a very sketchily built and rusty 85 Honda Accord Limo. Questionable Garage, we do some silly stuff, but I don't think this is that. Clarence, are you okay? How long have you been like this? Why are you losing so much air? Quick, get me the Ettenwolf. That's right, today's video is sponsored by Ettenwolf and their tire inflator. Now, you may ask yourself, Jared, you're in a workshop, you have an air compressor, why do you need a portable tire inflator? Well, my air compressor's in the shop and I have cars outside and I do not always like, you know, pulling 150 feet of air hose out and having to wind it up later, and that's where this Ettenwolf comes in handy. It's capable of inflating a completely flat tire, one of the most difficult tasks for a portable air inflator. As it's inflating that tire, it is picking up and supporting the weight of the vehicle, and when a tire is completely flat, it's a lot more difficult to get it up. Also, something I really like about the Ettenwolf is its very easy to use interface, plus you can have preset tire pressures. Now, of course, you can just press an up and down arrow or scroll a wheel and adjust it for each thing, but it is very convenient when you have cars that maybe only need 30 PSI of air pressure, trucks with 60, or something that may need up to 160 PSI of air pressure. Just a quick press of your mode button and you're switching between your preset pressures. Also, the Vortex S6 comes with just about every fitting you're gonna need to put air in all the things that need air in your life. Basketballs, soccer balls, other air-filled balls, tires, motorcycles, or ridiculous YouTube ad props. Let's be fair, Clarence isn't that ridiculous. He's been hanging out in the wall and he's been on a lot of dust ball rallies. He's an amazing crustacean. Also, the Vortex S6 has a convenient built-in light for when you're broke down in the middle of the night and you need to see what you're trying to do. Don't look directly into it. It's bright. Don't do it. Ettenwolf is giving you guys an amazing offer. $40 off the purchase of your own tire inflator, or dare I say life inflator, because it gets air in everything. If you're ready to take advantage of that offer, click the link in the description box below or the pinned comment. It's down there for you. You're gonna save $40 and you're gonna get a great tire inflator with a pretty cool name. Now, if you don't remember the full history of all this stuff, this was the engine that was in a perfectly good running Jetta. Got really good fuel economy, and I actually kind of liked it, but it's got to come apart for Rousey. So we cut it all apart. We got a bunch of upgraded parts, And our planned upgrades should see us, that's all 16s, of course, should see us making a lot more horsepower, but still getting the same fuel economy when we're driving it smart, because diesels are fun that way. You know, when you have these projects that have been apart for a long time, somewhere is the box that has the valve cover and stock intake and a couple other things that I needed. I haven't found them yet. One thing we did have wrong with the car is in really cold weather, the injection pump leaked just a little bit. The ejection pump is what goes from low pressure to high pressure on the fuel system, and you don't really want leaks in it. All right, how do we get all this stuff apart? I still have to find somewhere in here. There's a tote with the valve cover. Yeah, I just not sure where it ran off to. You guys ever have a project apart just a little too long? The upper timing set is somewhere hiding. Oh, we're gonna have to pull the pulley. The other thing I'm gonna have to try to get all sorted out, actually timing all of this back together. Like the cam has a cone on the front of it. It's not a traditional design, which is fine. We'll figure it all out. But I get her stripped down pretty good and then start cleaning it. Now, something that's funny is this was in my storage unit for quite a while. You guys have experienced this. I know you have. We drained the oil, and I drained the oil again. When I moved it in the storage unit, it drained itself and leaked again. A year or so later, I pull it out of the storage unit, and it pours and leaks oil again. Like, how do engines do that? They don't hold that much oil, and it's still spilled everywhere. Also, to the very dedicated viewer, I appreciate you, that would comment on almost every single video asking about our special German 6-speed transmission that you can't get in the United States. I told you, I'm using it. It took us a while to get here, but it is time. So, does it come out? Come on. There we go. That sounds a little noisy when I spin it. Well, that's because the clutch bearing shot. That's a lot of movement. All right, pop these loose, and we can fire it all off. That bolt's fully shrouded in dirt. So, some of the cool cooling system stuff I was mentioning. We're deleting the water pump, at least the mechanical water pump. On these diesels, when you get a lot of RPM in them, you know, over 4,000, the water pumps will cavitate really badly. And what that cavitating means, you're basically super boiling water at the tips of the impeller, causing them to turn into air bubbles and have small explosions. I think it's pretty self-explanatory that you don't want, small boiling and explosions in your cooling system, how that can lead to some bad stuff. So, to eliminate that, like they build some of these into insanely fast road racers, these diesels. You set up and run modern electric water pumps, vary the duty cycle, and you fix your exploding water problem. I will say though, for such a big part, it's nice and light. You know, the AC compressor is most of the weight of it. Gosh, so much dirt and junk. We'll leave this on for now, because I gotta get a new dipstick too. That one's a little broke. But we'll leave that on, because that's gonna go ahead and kind of shield some of the oiling system. This gets deleted later too, because we're going from this style cooler to an external cooler. We got a lot of cool bits for this thing. But we need a crank pulley off and maybe our coolant lines, and we'll move outside to some heavy duty cleaner. Why are diesels so dirty? All right, so what a lot of this buildup actually is flaky scale rust. The car did spend some time, the donor car, up north. So the scale rust isn't uncommon. What I'm gonna do to start cleaning is use what's called a needler. And these tips are a softer metal. They're not gonna hurt the cast, but they're gonna chisel away all of that rust, and all these fingers are gonna help get into the curve. So I'm gonna try it a little bit without any cleaner, and then I'll shoot some oil cleaner on it. We're not gonna use it on the aluminum, probably safe for it, but I don't wanna do that. So we're just gonna hit the block side, both sides of it, get it cleaned down and cleaned up as best we possibly can. And then actually, before I even hit the pressure washer, looking at it, I'm gonna go ahead and lift the cam out so all our valves are closed, and we can clean even our ports a little bit better because they're diesely. Also, hearing protection. There, you can see how it's less oil where it's really breaking up that scaled rust a lot better up here. I think it's about ready for cam to pop off and some cleaners. So that means we got to pull our vacuum pump and all our cam caps, and then make sure not to roll upside down. Trying the final cleaning here of our intake valves. Get as much of the carbon buildup knocked off of them. Carbon and soot. It's always amazing how bad these things can get. Actually, before I roll it, I'm going to hit a wire brush on the block, then we'll roll it, pressure wash it, one more side on the other side, and then we got to dry it for paint. I'm going to move you guys here. I want you to watch what comes out of the cylinder head water as it tilts. This is after multiple rounds of cleaning too. Kind of gross, isn't it? Just like on the Titan, we feed it back into the engine and it doesn't really do anything but break them and ruin their efficiency. I'm gonna go back to pressure washing and we'll pick you up right inside here in a couple of minutes. All right, so next step in getting our little 1.9 liter ready to make lots of horsepower is upgrading the head bolts. Now, in the past, on most builds, Supras, things, you just immediately throw head studs in. They're pretty expensive on the diesel, and you don't need to do that for most stock bottom end builds when it comes to these the Volkswagen diesels here. What you can get away with is you go to the PD150, it's one generation newer diesel, and those head bolts go from the 10.9 rated that this one has, classification of metric bolt, to a 12.9, which I think is about 33,000 PSI additional tensile strength. So, this is one factory head bolt that we've got removed with an integrated washer. This is the replacement cut down with an ARP washer. When you're doing this, you have a couple options. If you're going to do a head gasket, you pull them all off, lift the head. You do them one at a time, and there's mixed opinions. You either undo it and then torque it just to the secondary, because these are torque to yield. Torque to yield means you do a preset torque setting and then you turn it a certain number of degrees to create stretch in the bolt. Some people like to go just to that 44 foot-pounds. This is a two-stage 30, then 44, and then they'll do the 290s. What I'm going to do, and what I've done in the past when you're doing just bolt replacements and it works well, is I'm going to go straight to the 44 and then do the 90-90 per bolt, one at a time. So that way we keep the most amount of clamp load on that gasket at all times, and we're minimizing any introduction of problems. You may have your different opinion of what to do. Comment below. What do you do? What is your experience with it? Also, check and see what the manufacturer wants you to coat the threads with. If you have some ARP moly lube, that may not be the right thing because lube changes how a bolt will torque. This is basically just 30 weight clean motor oil. So that's what we're gonna cover the threads in. We're gonna do the torque. It is a lot when you really think about it, and get this thing bolted back in so we can move on to the next little upgrade, because I'm excited to bolt some new parts to it, and you can already kind of see the color we're painting the block. I don't know why we're doing it that color, but that's the color I have and decided to go with. So, oil on the washer, oil on the threads. And again, we're going to do, instead of 2 stages of pre-torque, we're going to go right to 44 and then 90-90. Now, this snap-on, as well as my Icon, has the torque to yield built in to tell me 90 degrees, but I need leverage. These, it's a lot of torque, so just, you can be smart. If your ratchet starts off like this, and then it turns to like this, that's 90 degrees. So, there are times if you have to do a lot of small ratcheting, those are really nice. I love them, but when we're out here where we're gonna make a single 90-degree swing, we don't need the fancy tools. All right, 190. Once we get this tight, I'm gonna switch you guys further back just so I don't knock you down. And then this is the hard one. Come on. Jeez. Lock it in. 290. Wow. Okay. Only 2, 8, 9 more to go. At least it's easy. All right, we have ourselves a pink Volkswagen engine, and it's ready for some of the really good go-fast parts. Now, we're going to go over just a little bit of how a turbocharger works, why it is a really good way of increasing the efficiency of an engine while we put this on. The simplest way to describe an engine, I've said it before, is it is an air pump. It's designed to move air in and out, and you just happen to have some explosion and horsepower happen in the middle. But part of moving that air out, there is still heat and energy inside that exhaust air. It's not complete waste. So a really good way of reusing it is to use it to drive a turbine that then turns a compressor wheel and pushes more pressurized air into it, increasing the airflow, increasing the air volume going through. So you have a 1/2 liter cylinder, it pulls a 1/2 liter of air in when it compresses it. Now, that's almost impossible to achieve in a naturally aspirated scenario. Ram air and a couple other things can help you have little moments of that, but until you start adding extra atmospheres with boost, you really don't get there. So, the first start is you have your exhaust ports, where of course that energy goes, into your turbo manifold. Now, I don't remember where I put the old one. It was a long time ago. This, from Darkside here, is what's pretty much an exact equal length manifold. When I say equal length, that means the distance from the cylinder head to the turbo flange is the same for each one. The reason you want that is for boost stability. It's not a constant stream of exhaust gas. It's pulses. Think about it, your valves opening and closing. So that creates pulse waves, pressure waves. So by having it equal length, that means the timing of those waves hitting the turbocharger end up being the same. Also, it has a very beautifully machined merge collector, which helps direct all of that air in. All right, next part of the turbocharger is the turbocharger itself. And this is a real nice little beauty. It is substantially bigger than stock, even though in the realm of big power, it's small. For 1.9 liter, it's very big. Now you'll notice there's not a traditional wastegate. What it has is variable vane control, which makes it spool, and it changes the exhaust AR. That's how tight the snail is in there, directing the air onto your turbine. Turbo goes spoolie spool, air goes in here, and it comes out here making horsepower. So let me just kind of slip and see. Will this go on after it's tightened up, or do I need to have it all together first? I need to have it all together first. Okay then. There we go. What do you guys think of the pink? Does it offend you, or is, I think it's funny. As I told it, I sent Henry a picture, and he's like, why pink? And I'm like, getting passed by a Honda limo is bad enough. Getting passed by a Honda limo with a bright pink engine, that's even worse. Not that I don't want it to tighten once it's on, then... Oh yeah, look at that little guy. But then again, I say little guy, it's kind of massive for a stock ALH build. I know some of you think I'm crazy doing the limo build. What would you put this type of engine in? You can't say a Jetta, because that's what we took it out. We're doing engine swaps here. A lot of people, not 100% incorrectly, but they call diesel engines fuel regulated. So unlike a gasoline car that has a throttle body that opens and closes to change the amount of air coming into it, the bulk of your diesels don't. There's no way to shut off airflow going in the engine. Now, you'd think it would just constantly run away. RPM would go to the moon at all times. Well, it doesn't, because you kind of sort of control the level and strength of the combustion by the amount of fuel you do give it. So yes, technically kind of sort of they're fuel regulated, but really it's still an air pump. It's still going to be air regulated. You can throw a whole lot of fuel at it, but if it's not pumping air well, if you don't have a good turbo setup, you don't have efficient airflow, it's still not going to just magically make more because you give it more fuel. Everything kind of has to work together. And that just seems to be very commonly forgotten. Now, if you're familiar with a car fuel injector, you'll notice as these come out, they're quite a bit different. That's because these, now some of the newer diesel injectors do, but these are controlled by pressure. That pump we'll need to rebuild that we took off at the beginning of the episode is timed that it sends super high pressure fuel down, and they will basically pop and inject the fuel. These actually live right in the combustion chamber. When you stop and think about the amount of pressure, especially with these, because as a diesel, they're seeing a much higher compression ratio on the engine side. And it comes out, that tip there, again, super high pressure. And then the act of cylinder coming up makes everything go boom. So the reason you change an entire injector on a diesel are these nozzles. They are sized. It's going to be hard. There's little tiny holes and it sprays in a mist. If I remember, I'm going to send Dwayne a video of people doing a test. You can kind of see how the fuel sprays out. And you can sometimes just change your tips. That's very common for these, but we went ahead and got fully rebuilt, new, fresh injectors. Something else you'll notice about the diesel is we don't have spark plugs. We do have glow plugs, but they're not quite what a spark plug is. A spark plug, when the fuel mixture comes up, is compressed and ready to explode. The spark plug is what ignites it in a gasoline car. On these diesels, they combust by compression. It's also why their compression ratios are so much higher. The fact, the energy and heat caused by it being compressed is what causes it to combust and explode. That's also why diesel fuel is a lot more stable. You know, like it's not as easy to just light off with a match. It takes a lot more effort. It gives a longer, slower burn. So what the glow plug's job is they come on when it's cold, before you first start. That wait to start in a diesel, and it warms the air to help make it a little bit easier for these bad boys to light off when you start cranking them. So yeah, that's why in a diesel you have that wait to start, but you don't on the gassers, because again, we got a little spark plug in there. I will also just say it feels good finally putting this together. She's a long way from like starting, because I've got a lot of dust ball friends that are knocking down the door wanting to come see this thing live, and they're like, tell us when, we're all coming. And I'm like, I'm gonna get the suspension engineering done first, because that's one of those things where it just takes all of your attention. And I don't know if any of you have ever done one of those fun where you get everyone together and you're just thrashing and wrenching. Whoever shop it ends up being is the one who's, you know, pointing and corralling. We did a great job with it on the school bus, as we were able to kind of point and do all the jobs and get everyone a direction to go. But when it comes to that level of engineering that's going to happen on that suspension, I need all my attention. All right, what's our torque spec? Let me clean up, find a couple more parts, and then we're going to wrap up talking about the water pump. Because if you remember, I said we're getting rid of a water pump. I'm going to show you and talk a little bit why. All right, water pump time. This is our stock water pump. Has the impeller on it, and this is what turns and generates and flows the water. It's a pump. Takes the water in, as it's spinning, it then spits it out, circulates it through the engine. I mentioned the cavitation. When this gets spinning too quickly outside of its real good designed efficiency, where it's meant to turn, that water can actually start basically boiling and exploding. I'm not 100%, but I do actually believe that we do have some minor cavitation damage to this pump. So Darkside has an upgrade right here. You notice there is no pump, and that is because we go to an external electric water pump. And that may seem a little bit odd or scary, but it's a factory BMW pump that they use. A lot of modern cars are going to electric water pumps. Earl has an external electric water pump. The Lexus drag car, external water pumps. One big reason is you don't have the mechanical parasitic loss of having to turn that impeller. That process of it turning does take some horsepower away, and that is one reason why you actually see, especially on smaller displacement engines, a complete switch to the electric water pumps. Also, you can have a static varied volume of water flow. The mechanical pumps are RPM dependent. You may notice on your classic car, you get stuck in traffic and it starts overheating, but as soon as you can get RPM back into it, and a mixture of airflow, but also RPM turning that water pump, those temperatures come right back down. When you have the electric water pumps, you can vary the speed of that pump essentially infinitely from stopped to 100%. Any percentage in between. We'll just say 99 different speeds. That allows a much better control of temperature. On the modern cars, it's for efficiency and emissions reasons. For us, it's to let us get this engine happy at holding RPM without doing damage and make a little more horsepower while we're at it. So we're going to pop this in, and that's going to end up doing it because I realized I'm missing two parts for my fuel pumps. I'm getting excited. There's still a lot of parts to bolt on, But all of the foundation of all those really expensive parts, they're there. We've got to get some maintenance gaskets and we can build this thing all the way back up and be ready to go in. Our new big injectors, our European only intake manifold, better flow, water pump delete, and that big old turbo. All of this stuff together is gonna be insane. Again, from what I understand, like 500 foot-pounds of torque. That's a lot of torque, and we got that awesome 6-speed to go. So I'm excited to finally be making some progress on our good friend Honda Rousey. Most likely our next Rousey episode is gonna be some major chassis fab. I'm hoping to have some parts in from Hong Kong so we can get our motorcycle car done and out of here. We got to make some Ferrari truck progress. We've got a lot to do, but none of it gets done if you don't take the steps. I could be discouraged and stop because the Snyder car doesn't have parts, but we can make progress on other projects. And the same goes for you guys at home. Just because you can't get done necessarily what you want to get done, there's still things that need a little bit of doing and you can still get it going, you know? Make those small steps because you're gonna have to do it eventually. Don't waste your time. You don't know how much you got. I'm Jared, reminding you guys to always make questionable choices. And just because it's a Honda doesn't mean it needs a K-swap. See you next time.